Hi guys, so I'm here today to do an on my shelf video. If you haven't seen one of these before, essentially I asked on Twitter for some sets of numbers, one between 1 and 15, which is the number of bookshelves I wanted to pick from, and one number between 1 and 40, which is the largest number of books I have on any one given shelf. So with those sets I then pick out a random selection of books that I may not have talked about otherwise, and it just makes for an interesting collection, and talk to you about them all. So I have 8 books, which is quite a lot, so I'm not going to dilly-dally too much here, and I'm going to get into the books. First book was picked by Nicola over at Robotnik, and that is the Stayricon by Petronius, and I'm very glad she picked this one because I love this book, so I'm happy to share it with you guys again. This is a piece of Latin literature. It is a Roman novel, and it is one of the only 2 Roman novels to survive, I think, off the top of my head. The other one being Appius's The Golden Ass. This one, however, did survive fragmentary, so this isn't actually the entire novel, bits of it are missing, and I think if it had survived in its entirety it would have been absolutely huge. So it's a much more consumable size, which it has come down to us in, but I would still highly recommend anybody read this. It's absolutely hilarious. It's very, very crude, very rude, very sexually explicit, just kind of everything that might offend some people is probably in this, but it's also quite an interesting commentary on the Roman elite during the time of the Emperor Nero. So it's crude but clever, and I would really recommend it. It's really good. The next set of numbers was from Joe at Pole Pinto, and that is The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. And I haven't read this one yet, so I can't really comment on the book. I did see the film when I was a lot younger, and I picked this up when I was with Taylor from Leatherbound, and we were book shopping. We both decided to finally read the book. Not that I have yet, but I am really looking forward to reading the original tale, given that the movie is such a cult classic. I have heard mixed things about it though. Next was Maria from Bookish Wordings, and she picked shelf 7, book 22, and that was Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. I have read this one. I've talked about it in a little bit more detail in a separate video. I really enjoyed this. I didn't start Jane Austen's work with the most popular ones like Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility. I went for Northanger Abbey and then Mansfield Park, and perhaps because I didn't have anything to compare them to, they both absolutely blew me away. I loved this tale. For it being a really chunky book, I found it really engaging and felt like I zoomed through it quite quickly. It didn't feel like a slog at all, and it never felt too long. Our protagonist Fanny Price, however, whose family have too many children than they can handle, and is sort of taken in by her wealthy aunt and uncle to grow up with them. And it's about her experience kind of somewhat as an outsider of this family, somewhat of an insider, first romances and relationships and witnessing other people's relationships. It's just a lot of good fun. It's just very Jane Austen, and I'm really loving Jane Austen so far, so I really need to get around to another one. But funnily enough, Lizalette actually picked the book next to Mansfield Park, which is Emma. I have not read Emma. I hear mixed things about Emma. Some people seem to love Emma, some people just don't. I know Lena from Just Kiss My Frog loves Emma. I know my mum adores Emma. But other people I know really don't like it. So it's obviously a bit of a Marmite, Jane Austen, but I'm actually really looking forward to it. It sounds like it's one of her most deliberately comical novels, and it's about Emma, who considers herself a bit of a matchmaker but shuns any ideas of a love life for herself. And yeah, I have seen the film adaptation, so I know the entire plot line, and I will get to it at some point. These lovely editions, by the way, are published by Vintage. Jeremy from Jersings then picked 40 Sonnets by Don Patterson, which is a collection of poetry. And if it isn't up already, this is actually going to be in an up-and-coming poetry video. Don Patterson is one of my absolute favourite poets. This is his most recent collection. It's published by Faber and Faber, and he writes a real wide variety of poetry. I feel like he deals with all of the things. He deals with the small things, the big things, the personal things, the bigger world things, and he does it all with some really beautiful prose. Even his poetry can be quite experimental but also quite traditional at the same time. Like, I feel like he does it all, and I always really enjoy reading his stuff. Alexandra from Olagrab on Twitter then picked the numbers 39 and 12, and the next 3 books are all actually from shelf 12 because apparently people love shelf 12, which is actually full of children's book mainly. The book that Alexandra picked is The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis. This is actually the first in the Chronicles of Narnia, if you're not aware, which is a series in which The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe is from, but The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe is actually the second in the series, and this is the one that comes before it. So this is about two children who travel into Narnia and essentially witness Aslan creating Narnia. I mean, a lot of this is kind of metaphors for Christianity. C.S. Lewis was very religious, and Aslan kind of represents, I don't know, God, Jesus, one of them. But it's basically about the creation of Narnia, the naming of all the different animals. We meet the White Witch for the first time. We meet the original Adam and Eve. It's very good. I definitely prefer The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, but I would recommend it, especially if you've already read The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. This book will teach you so many things. So many things will now make so much more sense about The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe if you read this. For example, why that lamppost is there. It's all in here. But Danielle then picked The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey, which you probably heard me mention quite recently, because I read it quite recently and it's been in a couple of videos. I really enjoyed this though. I think it is worth the hype actually. I went into it a little bit dubious because it's so popular, but I did really enjoy it, more than I thought I was going to. It's a bit of a zombie apocalypse book, in essence, but it's got a really creative twist. It focuses mainly on a child protagonist and narrator, but it does have a eclectic cast of characters, and it's very well written, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very creative, so we'd highly recommend this one. But lastly, the Maitre Zebra picked Benjamin Zephaniah's Terror Kid. I have a weird feeling this has actually been in an on my shelf video before, because I've done these twice before I think, and I just feel like maybe this was in one. That could be completely wrong and I can't go and check right now, so it's just going to be in this one too anyway. This is a young adult book by Benjamin Zephaniah about a young boy who is quite disillusioned with what's going on in the world, wants to make the world a better place, wants to be politically active, but he is a teenager and he's not sure how to get involved in making the world better, and because of that naivety and also just passion for the world, he gets tricked by a terror organisation to help them hack into the system at a police station, if I remember correctly. It's all just a terrible, terrible mistake. It's such an interesting book though. Nobody writes young adult books like Benjamin and Zephaniah, I don't think. And he hasn't actually written any for years except for this one. I wish more people wrote young adult books on the topics like Benjamin Zephaniah does. This one does also touch on racism and prejudices that can exist in the police force and the justice system as well. It is very good though, and despite the heaviness of the topic, it's a very easy read, and I would recommend it to most people. So yeah, those are all the books though. So thank you everybody for sending me in some numbers. If you fancy doing one of these videos, then I will give you a set of numbers to start you off. I'll give you 5 and 10. Hopefully that will apply to your bookshelves. And until next time guys, happy reading, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye!